Hello, this is my video on the I Ching, the Yin and Yang. um, I apologize if I get some of this wrong or a lot of it wrong. I don't study Eastern philosophies, but this is just the basics, so I'm hoping to get the basics, right? So you got the Yin and Yang. This is the Korean, the South Korean flag, or closer proximity of it. This is like red and blue, I believe, on the flag. So that they have these lines that represent like four directions, like it would be like north, south, east, west, right? And it gives them, a compass, right? But why the three lines? Why the, it goes line, dash, line here, then dash, line, dash here, right? But we're like, why are they opposite? So that's north, south, or east, west type of thing, right? They are the opposite of each other. So, like this one, they all represent what that means in the yin yang, like inside what this is. So this would be, we'll say that's yin, right? We'll say that's like an inward expression of energy, right? Just the not outwardly expressive, right? But like the lack of energy, the lack of expression, the off switch. And we'll say the yang is the on switch. Lighten up your life, right? So yang, yin. Now, there's nothing about this figure that would suggest like a straight up duality, because like a circle speaks of a cycle, speaks of flowing from one to the other. And this waveform speaks of, a waveform, a function of frequency over time, right? How it flows from one to another. So it's important to understand that, like, this is like the equivalent of like a 1 and a 0 in computing. Now, with just the 1 and the 0, right? Like, so if you just have the 1 and the 0, like you can go like on, or off, or on, off, or off, on, right? There's like 4 different combinations, right? So now you got like the basics of like the basics of computing, right? You got 4 different combinations with just an on-off switch, right? You can work with a lot just with binary code, right? So why do, if just these 2 lines can represent 4 directions, why is there 3 lines? So like if you got 3 lines, right, and all the different combinations of those 3 lines, you end up with 8 different combinations. And so, yeah, they don't have all 8 combinations on their flag. They only have 4 of them. They have the 4 north, south, east, west, but they represent, all 8 of them. Like all 8 of them do exist, right? Like that they have them written down. And they all represent just a combination of those 3 lines. And those 3 lines represent the expression of yin yang, right? In those combinations. So, like wind, for example. Wind would be like on, off. So if you look at like off as like the earth, like the mother earth that absorbs energy. It's just a ball of potential energy that's not expressive energy. It's just potential energy. So this off line is the earth with all this active line, with the 2 active lines going over that. So you consider that like the wind, so, right? That element represents these 3 lines represents the wind, and that is the expression of what wind would be. So in binary code, in like a 1s and 0s, right, this would be 0, 1, 1, because you read from the top or you read from the bottom going up. So you go like, this would be 0, 1, 1, right? And so you got, there's wind, right? Then you got thunder, right? Thunder would be, so you got all the stillness, this potential energy in the clouds up high, right? All this potential energy of the still, like this non-expressive potential energy, this yin energy in the sky. But then you got thunder, you got lightning, you got the expressive energy, reflected down towards earth. So that's what this looks like. So this is the symbol they give this energy. This is what like it looks like in nature. This is like a descriptive way to describe like a season, right? Like an expression of nature. Kind of like we have our, our way of describing animal versus plant, right? We categorize things. Well, they categorize the universe in the way it expresses a yin and yang sort of nature on this spectrum of life, on the spectrum of existence. It's just a simple way of categorization. That's it. And so is binary code, right? So is like ones and zeros on a computer code. So like the more lines you put, the more like information you gather about any one object. The more like you order them in a row and like stack them, and you say, okay, this represents a part of nature, right? What does that outward expression? What is that inward expression? What do you get? But it's just a way to categorize life and all the different seasonal directions of it. So like, I mean, the idea of yin and yang being binary, like it's yes and no. It's the foundation of it. But binary code is why I'm able to talk to you right now over the internet. Like this is all binary code that you're even able to identify this as words right now. It's all broken down into ones and zeros, just like the yin and yang, breaks down a circle. You can do it in an infinite amount of layers. They do it, and the Ching does it, and sets a 3 and 3, right? So like you get 3 here and 3 here, right? So like you just stack them, 6 lines. 6 lines is a hexagram, an actual hexagram of nature, 6-sided box, right? And that represents like, well, you end up with 64 of them with 6 lines with all the different combinations of you stack. Thunder and wind, right? And then you go wind and thunder, that you just flip them around. Well, that's 2 combinations of it. And you go, well, there's 8 of these things. So you go 8 times 8, there's 64 combinations of just these 3 lines. Well, like 6 lines, technically. These 3 lines stacked with all 8 combinations of these 3 lines, right? So like you end up with, 64 combinations of, 3 lines and 3 lines stacked. And so you use that as like the foundation of, your wheel of time, right? Where everything represents a certain season in opposition. So like the yin is over here, the yang is over here, the yin is over here, the yang is over here. So everything has this opposite expression of what it looks like, how it expresses itself in nature. Oh, this thing, like the downward, like the foundation of it has more, this lake energy, but the outward expression of it, like how it's used in nature or whatever, like compared to other objects, it has, this mountain energy type of thing, right? Like it's just a way to categorize nature, and that's it. Like, and so if you do the I Ching and stuff, and like you flip the coins and they give you some passages of life, and some fortune cookie patches of life. Well, it is based on some element of life. It's still going to recognize as the hero's journey. It's still going to recognize as like some different perspective, some different angle that you might not be seeing, or that might resonate with you, or you might shift your perspective, because this is all based off of like ancient science of like describing the meaning and the foundation and the essence of existence itself on this waveform. I mean, same as we use statistics for now. So it's really neat. And I wish I'm just learning about it now. So I got a lot of endeavors to go, but like, it's a cool way to break down, the nature of nature, just because this is actually the foundation of like binary code and the foundation of computing, and just like it's the foundation of the stuff we use today, because it's a good way to break down information. And so this is just it represents a cycle. It doesn't represent the binary of life. It represents all the combinations along this infinite cycle of time in a circle, because you can put as many points as you want around a circle. With the I Ching, you end up with 6 lines and 64 hexagrams. So you end up with like 384 lines around a circle. Well, there's only 360 degrees in a compass. You end up with like something more accurate than a compass by line, as far as like a direction you want to go. And so it's just useful. It's a useful way to break down information in binary code. Scientific information, whatever information you want. How do you categorize the world around you into binary code? That is the foundation of the I Ching.